What's going on, guys? Phil Daru back again with another video. Today I'm going to be going off of some questions that I've been getting lately on my comment section about how to actually structure your conditioning around your skills training. Now, with the sport of mixed martial arts, there's a lot of mixed bioenergetic demands that have to be worked on, including the skills practice throughout each week. So I'm going to give you some details on how I actually produce more systems and the overall program to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to get them progressing throughout camp and throughout the off camp. Let's do this. Okay, so first off, we want to understand what type of energy systems actually go into a mixed martial arts practice. So when it comes down to drilling, when it comes down to sparring, we want to make sure that we are efficient in our energy system. So you have to make sure that you are comfortable in your training realm. In the skills training, you need to know how to actually have the technique and skill set to make sure that you're not overloading on your energy. So with that being said, it's going to take a while, especially if you're new to MMA or new to mixed martial arts or any type of combat sport, to actually get good at the sport itself. So you have to train the skills to be efficient in the skills. Now, with that being said, we want to train these particular energy systems in a controlled environment so that when it's uncontrollable, you're able to cope with the energy demands that are placed upon you. So with that being said, when you're talking about aerobic capacity, primarily you're going to be working on your drilling. Now that could be BJJ or your technical sparring, right? It's something that's going to be not as physically demanding, but is going to require some type of low level energy, okay? All right, the next one we're gonna be talking about is anaerobic alactic. So that's your hard drilling, that's your bag work, your pad work, something that's going to get your heart rate elevated above 90%. So that's very intense. You wanna make sure that you're not doing this for a long duration. Obviously, you will not sustain it. So you wanna center this around training times that are actually going to be conducive for that higher level of intensity, okay? Next up, we're going to be talking about lactic capacity. Now, that's more along the lines of glycolytic responses, so it's more of a medium intensity, long duration, right? And that's going to be wrestling practice and drilling, right? When you're talking about wrestling, you're under a state of glycolytic response, so your muscles are activated throughout that time frame, and you're doing it for a pretty long duration, all right? Lactic power, now that's going to be a little bit shorter duration, medium intensity, still working on that muscle lactic acid buildup or the ability to buffer that lactic acid out of the muscle. So with that, that's more of like an MMA practice, MMA sparring, right? Because you're doing things around 3 to maybe even 4 to 5 minutes, and you're resting within an adequate amount of time so that you can recover to repeat bouts of power throughout that longer duration, okay? Aerobic power, now that's more primarily along the lines of BJJ, especially in the gi, and then submission grappling. With this one, it's not too highly intense. We're still staying in that aerobic zone, but we're able to repeat high amounts of intensities throughout that lower level of intensities when it comes down to your heart rate. So you're looking around 60, 70% of maximal heart rate, producing power outputs throughout that time frame, okay? And then lastly, you're gonna be talking alactic speed endurance. Now this is drilling the takedowns, that's takedown defense, that's striking pad work, that's short bursts of energy, less than 10 seconds, and then with an active recovery going through a longer duration, somewhere around 10 to even 15 minutes. So that's equivalent to the time inside a fight of 3 5-minute rounds, right? So you're gonna be producing short bursts of energy for that time frame, just like you would inside a fight. Okay, so now I'm gonna go over how you can train around these specific energy systems to maximize your performance. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and match the energy systems to what you're going to train to help increase your progressions going further off camp and in camp. Now, when you're talking about off camp, you wanna build a base. I've been talking about this for a long time now. If you watch any of my later videos, you want to build a base of overall aerobic capacity. So we're going to be working on long distance running. You'll be working in a low intensity circuit zone, right? You want to be around 30 to 45 minutes with your heart rate zone being around 60 to 70%. So you can do your road work, you can do something like escalating density training, anything that's going to keep you in that aerobic zone working for a longer duration, all right? Your lactic capacity. Now this is going to be your overall circuits, right? This is the 1 minute to 1.5 minute circuits. All right, you're going to be doing this for a longer time frame, 5 to even 10 minutes straight. All right, you can also do German volume training with a lot of overall volume to increase hypertrophy, joint integrity, and that overall capacity to buffer it out. Okay, 5 to 25 minutes with your heart rate zone being around 85% of maximal heart rate. Okay. Lastly, you're going to be working on aerobic power. Now that's those interval training methods. Now with the aerobic power work, as far as intervals goes, this is going to help restore and recover if you need to, especially if you're overworked or feeling fatigued from the training beforehand. So what you want to do is do a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio with the heart rate zone being very low, 70% of maximal heart rate. Right? You can do this with tempo runs, and you can also do this with that escalating density training like I talked about. Okay, when you're talking about your trainings inside skill training, that's light sparring, basically tech sparring, where you're really just working on your game, working on your technique, nothing too crazy, right? You're not going all out energy, right? Drilling, low intensity drilling, very slow, methodical, making sure you're getting the technique down in the position that you want to get into. Okay, and then also bag work, nothing crazy. Again, we're just kind of tapping on the bag, making sure we're maintaining our technique and maintaining a level of aerobic capacity. All right, moving on to in camp. Now, this is when the intensities are going to start to increase, right? We're working on peaking the fighter to get ready for their fight or their competition. So you're going to be working on anaerobic alactic. That's sprints, speed and power intervals, something that's going to be short in duration, high intensity, and then repeat that bout. Okay, you're going to make sure you're staying alactic, so no lactic acid buildup. We're trying to maintain a low level of acidity inside the muscle, right? So it's a work to rest ratio of 1-to-4, keeping the heart rate zone about 90%. Okay, going on to alactic power. Now that's more of that repeated sprint ability, right, or repeated intensities, right? We're going to do that with ballistic training like throws and jumps and plyometrics, all right, making sure that we're increasing our explosive power. The work to rest ratio is going to be 1-to-5 work to rest, and the heart rate zone is going to be 75 to 85% of maximal heart rate. Okay, lactic power. Now lactic power is going to be highly transferable to the sport of MMA. So we're going to be working on fast twitch capacity, the ability to produce force and explosiveness with your fast twitch muscle fibers for a longer duration. You're going to do this with ballistic training and plyometrics over time, right? The work to rest ratio is going to be a 1-to-1 with your heart rate zones being around 80 to 90%. Okay, this is going to be highly taxing. I've done videos on this in the past, and matter of fact, I'll put the link in the description so you can check out that video of lactic power. All right, when you're talking about your skills training, that's going to be hard sparring. This is when you're really starting to put in the work. Okay, you're putting in a lot of time inside your technical sparring, but now it's time to transfer over and potentiate into really getting after it. Okay, wrestling. Now wrestling is definitely highly lactic because you're producing force and you're doing isometric holds inside of grappling exchanges. And then your MMA drilling. Now your MMA drilling, when it gets closer to the fight, is obviously the intensity is going to pick up because you're working on your game plan, you're working on a strategy, but you're also putting it into real live action. So with that being said, you want to make sure that you're training these specific modalities throughout the week, but you're not overloading the process. Now I'm going to get into how you can actually structure these training programs throughout the week concurrently so you can keep progressions going. All right, so remember now, off camp, right, a lot of the times they're just building that capacity. They're not really going super hard inside training. So with that being said, I'm going to give you a mock schedule that we use at American Top Team. So Monday is primarily their wrestling day. So we're going to work on that aerobic power. So after they get done with their wrestling, around 3 to 4 hours, maybe even 5 hours later, they're going to do 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off of 8 rounds, depending on what you decide to do as far as a protocol goes. But primarily you want to work that aerobic power. That's going to help speed up the recovery process for Tuesday, and also you're going to get that overall increase in energy system output. Okay, Tuesday is going to be technical sparring. Now with the technical sparring, like again, you're just working your technique, you're working your angles, right? For that, you're going to do some aerobic capacity. That can be 30 minutes of LSD, long, slow distance running. All right, that can be done 4 to maybe 6 hours pre or post sparring. On Wednesday, that's gonna be just your BJJ, your grappling, drilling, nothing too highly intense, but I am gonna give them a day off. We may do some mobility work there. And then obviously when it comes down to strength and conditioning, we're gonna be putting those in as well. But for the most part, they're completely off for that day. They're going in and enjoying that Wednesday, the midweek, okay? Now Thursday, they're back again for technical sparring. They're gonna do some aerobic capacity work again, working off of escalating density training. That's gonna be a 2 by 5 minute contrast lift. So again, they're gonna be taking a lift that's contrasted, so like a push and a pull, or a squat and a hinge, or you can do a squat and a press, or a deadlift and a pull. Whatever the case may be, you're gonna take 2 base compound movements. They're gonna do 1 to 2 repetitions with 50% effort, and they're gonna do that for 5 minutes straight. They'll do that for 2 rounds. Give them about a minute recovery, okay? Friday, right, that's gonna be your striking, drilling, kickboxing, boxing, Muay Thai, whatever the case. That's gonna be, again, aerobic power. We're gonna do 2 minutes on and 1 minute off for 8 rounds, right? Again, we're gonna stick between that lower level of intensity, but we're gonna increase that power output throughout that time frame. On Saturday, however, we're gonna get after it. So lactic capacity circuit, this is something to blow the lungs out, make sure we're buffering that lactic out of the muscle, or having the ability to do so that when they get into camp, they are ready to go when it comes down to maintaining a level of conditioning getting into fight camp, all right? Again, this is off camp, gonna go to in camp now. All right, moving on to in camp. Now we're starting to pick things up, right? The intensity is going up higher, the volume is brought down, the duration, the frequency of training is brought down, but we're still gonna maintain our schedule, right? So wrestling, right? Now the wrestling is picked up, right? We're gonna be working on that alactic speed endurance. So you're gonna be doing some sort of ballistics, plyometrics, every minute on the minute. I have a protocol on my video list. I'll go ahead and put the link in the description so you know how to do that as well. You're gonna do this primarily about 6 hours after wrestling, okay? Make sure that we're recovering properly, right? On Tuesday now, you're gonna start getting into hard sparring. So now we're really working on our game plan. You're putting in the rounds, okay? With this one, you're gonna do your anaerobic alactic, so your sprint intervals, right? You'll do that, either you can do that right directly after if you need to get it done, or you can wait. I prefer waiting about 4 to 6 hours again so that you do get adequate amount of recovery. Okay, on Wednesday, still doing your BJJ, your grappling, drilling. This one, you can go ahead and do your aerobic power. We're gonna go 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off for 6 rounds. We're bringing down the duration, right? But the main reason why we're doing this is to make sure that we're recovering. So that aerobic power interval, you'll be able to have restorative properties put in when you're doing this. Okay, as far as Thursdays goes, we're gonna bring down the hard sparring, go into light sparring, more game planning, working on technique still, and you're gonna do your alactic speed endurance again with ballistics. You can use a battle rope too as well, kettlebell, same concept there. On Friday, again, we're gonna do our striking drilling. So you're gonna be doing pad work with your coach or anything like that. Lactic power for this one, we're still gonna do our ballistics and our power movements. Again, you're going in that 1-to-1 work to rest ratio, keeping the heart rate mid-range, about 80-85%. Okay, Saturday, all right, you're gonna do technical sparring again, all right, but this one is more catered towards your game plan, and then you can do some aerobic capacity, long slow distance running or swimming, something like that, if you decide to do so, but that's optional, all right? So, this is the in-camp schedule, all right? Thanks again. If you have any questions, you know what to do. Hit the comments down below. I'll be sure to answer any questions there. Make sure you subscribe so you get new videos like this each and every week and know when these videos come out by hitting the notification. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.